So, you know, why don't we just pretend we're talking to a designer who's just his or her background is pretty much it's digital, and they may have gotten a project. And
okay, that's not a bad idea.
You know, you may have been designing for years and years, but maybe you were just designing primarily for the digital world. And now you've got a project that you're going to be entering the print world. And big difference. But that's okay because we have Michael here. Michael's from Foot Printing. And Mike, what are the types of things the designer has to think about when they're designing for print? You know, and again, maybe they've just, you know, mostly been on the digital screen, but now all of a sudden it's going to be in the real world and printed.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to think about. First of all, remember that you're designing in CMYK, not RGB.
Yep.
So don't forget about that. Second of all, you got to really think about your DPI. This isn't 72 DPI. Most of the printers now are 600, 1200 DPI. So you're going to want a lot bigger, nicer pictures so that they show up nice. Everything tends to show up nice on a computer screen, but in the printed world, if it's low resolution, you're going to notice that, and it's going to make your piece look worse, even if the printing was done properly. I've seen it too many times.
Yeah, and then even it's like, what are you printing on? The paper you got to be thinking about, right?
Yes, exactly. What color paper? Is there a texture to the paper? Is that texture or color going to affect how it prints and how it looks? And the answer is yes. And most of the time, as long as most of the time, if you're just printing on a plain white paper, you should be fine.
Yeah.
But if it's coated or uncoated, it's going to look more or less like your screen, or more dulled down, or more glossy. Another thing I would think about is fonts. You know, be sure that you're not using too many fonts and you're using them the correct way to guide someone's eye around the piece, how you want them to go around, or what you want them to see the main part of.
That's a good point, because, you know, people spend a little more time with a printed piece than they might looking at a screen or something that's on the screen. You got to maybe think about that more during the design.
Yeah. And what you're wanting them to look at and focus on, and eventually doing, you know, call to action. So another thing is borders. You know, borders are kind of a pain, and the way we cut things, if you're cutting a lot at the same time, it could affect that border. So you don't want to have just the little 1/8 of an inch border. You definitely want to make those bigger, but you want to avoid them. There's no reason to have them there. You might as well have bleeds and some other things going on there. And then what else was on?
Well, and bleeds are a whole other thing. I mean, you know, in the digital world, it's easy. I just bring my image to the side here, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's all sorts of technical and mechanical things to think about with the design and getting it in the printed world.
And then also even like designing to size.
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing a 4x6 postcard, you should probably design
4x6
size instead of bigger, because otherwise I'm going to have to replace it. And it's going to take longer to print, and that's also a pain. So those are all things you really want to be thinking of when you're doing the design: the color, the fonts, and how everything's laid out, so that you can guide someone along the path that you want them to go on.
And probably double check your work, because, you know, we were talking about this, like, you know,
double check.
If there's a mistake with the digital design, it's like, well, I can take care of that right then and there, but if it's done. There's a mistake made in the printed world, well, you got to go back, and there's a budget to worry about. There's time to get things reprinted.
I mean, although we've, you know, made a decent amount of money here and there by having to reprint things that have been messed up by you know, someone not noticing a word spelled wrong or forgetting somebody who was supposed to be on a printed piece. I hate doing it. You know, that's the worst, because I hate the idea of people having to pay twice for the same piece just because something was left off and it wasn't double checked. And double checking is not an easy thing to do. If you're looking at something all day long, like at least at Foot, when we're double checking something, if I'm working on it, somebody else is double checking.
Get a fresh pair of eyes.
You need to do that. It will help you so much if you double check things and have other people double check them, because what you're not seeing, someone might come over and in an instant just be like, that's spelled wrong, or that's
really? I didn't see that.
If you're sitting there all day with it in your face, you'll never see it.
And hey, look, we're not trying to scare you out of your print job, but, you know, just it is a different beast. It really is. You know, you got to take it's not just your graphic design abilities, but they're in a different way, and there's some technical things to think about. The good news is, though, and we did another video on this, you know, you can always call your printer. And even when you're in the midst of the job, even setting up the job, setting up the file, you guys can be a source. So just to make sure you're doing things right along the way. So If you're off on your first print piece, congratulations. It's a lot of fun. And definitely give the guys at Footprinting a call if you need any information to get started, or even when you're in the midst of designing your piece and getting it printed. And where is your website, sir? Would you like to tell them?
Footprinting.com. Foot with an E, printing.com.
Check it out. And there's some other great videos like this about printing that you might find useful. So thanks a lot for watching. I think that'd be a good one. I think that's a good one.
I think it is a good one.
People out there.